there are hideous complications that can come with measles as well. And I think we're living in an age now where parents are making choices to not protect their children against diseases like measles because they're not aware of the privilege they have for having never seen a child sick with measles.
Let's try to make sense of these figures about childhood vaccination rates in England. Now, they have fallen, with London actually having some of the lowest rates of immunisation. The official figures show an uptake of the measles, rotavirus and meningitis B vaccine all dropped among 1 and 2-year-olds. England is yet to reach 95% uptake. That's the target recommended by the WHO, and that, of course, maintains herd immunity, despite vaccinations being offered for nothing, as we all know, on the NHS. There is better news among children starting primary school, an age group where uptake rates do seem to have stabilised somewhat. But the UK Health Security Agency warns that, in their view, there is still a long way to go. Well, Dr. Maddy Dann is an A&E doctor, and you are a relatively new parent as well, Dr. Nunn, is that right?
It's Dr. Dan, but yes, quite a new parent.
Right.
He's 8 months old. So we've definitely come off the back of having all the 8 weeks, 16-week vaccines, and our next ones will be the MMR vaccine, MMRV, which I'm very excited for him to be able to have.
OK, sorry, I'm sorry I got your name wrong. So
okay.
It's Dr. Dan.
Yes,
right.
That's right.
Right, we've got there. I'm so sorry about that. So, I mean, we're talking about misinformation. I can't even get your surname right. That's absolutely no good. I'm just baffled. I'm delighted by your enthusiasm as a doctor for vaccines. Why is it that there are still some parents out there who don't get it? Why do you think that is?
I think there's several reasons. I think a big issue I've noticed is the desire for parents, pregnant people, to have control and to feel that they have choice. I think a lot of the things that we do, interventions for our children, seem very prescribed. You do this, you do this, you do this. And with a lot of misinformation that's around, it leads parents to question, to want to have choice, to want to have control. And unfortunately, a lot of parents will exercise that right for choice to choose to decline things rather than to accept things. Misinformation is massive and it's rife as well. And the scary thing about it is it can offer you certainties. They're false certainties, but it can offer you those. Okay. And science can't do that. Science can't tell you something's 100% safe. No. Science can't tell you that something is definitely not going to cause any harm, is only going to cause benefit. And that's frightening for parents. And so when they see some misinformation that suggests this is how you can 100% protect your child, even though it's false, they're going to be driven towards that 100% certainty, which we know science can't really offer.
Well, let's be honest, some people are going to be driven in that direction. Mercifully, the vast majority are not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the really reassuring figures are that there seems to be a bit of an uptick on some of the uptake of the vaccines, the preschool boosters, but still we're sort of sitting around 83% on those, the 4-in-1 with the lowest uptake. And we're really aiming for that 95%, as you've mentioned. So fortunately, there are people who understand, don't question the vax, understand their importance and don't look to this misinformation. But I can understand and sympathise with those that do, because they make it very sexy. They make it very clickbaity, very easy to ingest and to believe. And the real science is a lot wordier, it's a lot more difficult. So I can understand why people get so swayed by the misinformation. Yeah. So it's so important that we keep talking about it and challenging it.
But, I mean, you used the adjective sexy. I mean, could there be anything less sexy than a child seriously ill with measles? It's horrific, potentially.
Absolutely not. It's awful. Measles was one of the leading causes of childhood death from infectious reasons. And the thing with measles is it's absolutely 100% completely definitely less safe to get any immunity naturally from measles than it is the vaccine. The thing with measles is what it does, even in mild cases, is it causes something called immune amnesia, where it basically wipes your body's sort of B and T cells, which are the cells really important in immunity, and it makes them forget their response to pathogens that the child has previously experienced. So what we found is actually when the measles vaccine was introduced, deaths went down from 2000 to 2018. There were approximately 23 million avoided deaths, and that was more than we expected from just deaths from measles, because what was happening was these children were being protected from that immune amnesia, so they weren't then contracting and dying from other infectious diseases. There are hideous complications that can come with measles as well, and I think we're living in an age now where parents are making choices to not protect their children against diseases like measles because they're not aware of the privilege they have for having never seen a child sick with measles.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? And I'm sure we mention this every single time we have this conversation because it does unfortunately come round relatively regularly. It's precisely because of the success of vaccines that we don't appreciate how brilliant vaccines are.
Absolutely. I mean, the measles vaccine was one of the most incredible interventions in the last, I don't even know how many years, because of the effect it's had on the measles cases, but then also the effect it had going forward on avoiding this immune amnesia. And you're absolutely right, because we are so spoiled by modern medicine, we forget how good we've got it.
And it's also just worth saying that it is good that there is better news among the children just about to go into reception, certainly in England. I know Scotland's been up and running for a couple of weeks, but the uptake rates there do seem to have stabilised, because it's when you start, or your children start properly mingling, that's when everything starts being spread around.
Absolutely. And this is why I'm also so pleased about the MMRV. So V is varicella, which is what causes chickenpox. And I'm so pleased that that's coming alongside the MMR vaccine to be able to protect my child when he's 1 against chickenpox. Because although we sort of think of chickenpox almost sort of fondly, we have memories of having it when we were younger and all this talk about chickenpox parties, which aren't a good idea. Neither are measles parties, awful idea. But I'm so pleased that he'll be able to have this vaccine, because you're absolutely right. This is the age at which they start mingling. They don't have a concept of personal space. They're sneezing and coughing and touching each other. And this is a very vulnerable time in their life. So as much as if you have missed out on vaccines, it's not too late to catch up and to get them. But it's also really important to remember that these vaccines come along at important points in these children's lives. And it's important to vaccinate them at those times to protect them when they are at their most vulnerable.
Yeah. And of course, herd immunity. Well, but by having your children vaccinated, you're playing a part in protecting everybody else's children, some of whom might be a lot more vulnerable than your own.
Yeah, you're protecting children that can't be vaccinated as well. There are some children who have immune deficiencies or other medical reasons why they're not able to be vaccinated, or they're particularly vulnerable, as you say. Then you're protecting those too, because what you're doing is you're giving the infection less area in which to spread. And so this is where we find a lot of parents who have chosen to decline the vaccines are almost not seeing consequences at the moment because of this herd immunity. Yeah. I don't think it needs to get to a point where these parents need to see the reality in the flesh of what happens. I wish and I hope it doesn't get to that point. But unfortunately, we are a bit spoilt by the fact that other children who are maintaining vaccination are protecting children who can't be or who haven't been.
Yeah, I mean, are you actually suggesting that if things get worse, we might simply have to have a return of the old public information film on the TV and on social media that just brutally illustrate the seriousness of getting a dose of measles?
Yeah, I wonder if that's completely preferable to a parent having to actually see it happen. I mean, we know measles can cause death, it can cause brain damage, visual issues, it can cause hearing loss. And it would break my heart for a parent to experience that for their child, break my heart for a child to experience that. So I think it's much more preferable to have a terrifying PSA film be run to really show the devastation it can cause.
I know you did say your son was 8 months old. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think there's no doubt that when you take did you say 6 weeks or 8 weeks that they have their very first jab?
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
I misspoke earlier.
They are tiny, aren't they?
And I was frightened on the way there. You think you've got your tiny little baby and someone's going to put needles in them. And even from my perspective, where I've helped in vaccine clinics, I ask about vaccines. I love vaccines. There's that little moment where I think, oh gosh, that fleeting moment, my child's going to have a needle put in their leg. But that quickly went away when I realised how incredible and how fortunate we are to have it. And you mentioned earlier about how, that obviously they're free. But the thing that terrifies me is people use that as a reason to not trust the vaccines because they're free. And that is just a misunderstanding of public health, because it's an enormous public health benefit to prevent these illnesses. But even I felt a tiny amount of hesitance. But then I remembered how incredible they are and how important they are to have. And he'll be having every vaccine going. And if I could have had a chickenpox vaccine, I would have loved it.
Yeah, chickenpox.
I've got a scar on my eyebrow now.
I know, it's absolutely no fun. I really feel for you. Dr. Maddy Dann, thank you very much indeed for your time.